Okay, so hello, Harrison. Nice to meet you. Um, I asked everyone to look at so on the Center for Undergraduate Research website, there are profiles for everyone who's
Mm.
done university scholars. I asked folks to take a look at your profile to see what kind of research you've done and what your interests are. But would you mind giving us just a real quick introduction to who you are, where you're at in your studies? I think you're about to go into a graduate program, correct?
I am, yeah.
Cool.
So I'm from the Panhandle. It's called Destin, Florida. Um, but I grew up there, and I am in my third year here at UF. I came in from high school with my associate's degree. So I altogether spent 5 years in undergrad, I guess you could say. Um, but really just got to UF, joined any club I could, really tried to make friends because I had no friends from high school. And really just research kind of fell into my lap from just really advocating for myself and just trying to talk to as many people as I could and just really get any opportunity I could. And Dr. Next, that is just kind of where I fell because of like the 30 emails that I sent out. No one responded. And then I actually talked to a graduate TA who got me into the lab.
Awesome. 30 emails, you said, right?
Yeah, no one responded. So that's pretty typical. You just, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, it's a really good thing to point out. We've been hearing that from some of our other guests on both sides of things, but like tenacity and sticking to it seems to be the main ingredient.
Yeah, definitely bugging people in person, I think, is like the gold standard of getting anywhere.
Awesome. Yeah, that was one of our first speakers. One of their main points was it's a lot harder to say no to someone to their face than to just delete an email. um,
I delete emails very easily, so I would highly recommend to bug people in person.
cool. Well, I'm going to try not to talk too much because folks have a lot of questions that they want to ask, and normally I start with a pre-written questions, but I think Elizabeth, are you ready to ask your question if you joined us?
Sorry, I forgot to unmute. I was just curious. I saw that you're a dance minor, and I wondered if you had any interest or wanted to incorporate that into your research in the future.
So my research now is in PTSD and how females in a rat model and also in clinical research are around twice as likely in America to be traumatized from an event and then develop PTSD after just an experience that is tough for them. And so I bridge that to dance, in which I am very emotional and I am like need art or like something to like ground me and to keep me just really optimistic in today's world and like the political fun that we're in currently. So really dance has given me an outlet to be resilient and really focus my energy into something that isn't science, because I do have a degree in biology. It's just really hard. And that's something that a lot of people will tell you, but it's really hard to really actually apply that and find something that is therapeutic to you. So I actually never danced before college. I just kind of started when I got here. And it was really hard, but learning ballet and West African and yoga and all these things really just like instilled in me that even if I'm not the best, even if I like am really just like embarrassing myself in that situation, the fact that I am there putting effort forth and really just trying is really the best that I can do, and I need to be fine with that.
Awesome. Let me. I know several people might have questions for you, but they're. Oh, Emily. Okay.
Hi, just kind of going off of what you just said. So like, I know that your research is kind of like working with rats, but have you ever thought about like potential like incorporating the dance as like potential like therapy interventions for people with PTSD? Like has like that kind of ever crossed your mind as like potential like interests for, like down the road?
So it definitely has crossed my mind. I'm really interested in applying for the MD program as well. So it would be a MD PhD 8-year fun program. So if I would ever get the opportunity, that would be really cool. But this university specifically, we do have a dance and medicine program, but it really focuses on Alzheimer's and neurodegenerative disorders related to aging. So there's really not a lot of trauma-based therapy at this institution.
Awesome. Let me jump to one of the pre-written questions, and then as people are thinking of their questions, you can go ahead and put your hand up in the participants. So Justin Gentles wrote, I read about your oxycodone, cocaine research on rats. Does it explore the physiological aspects of drug-seeking behavior? In other words, does it include dissections or an in-depth study involving changes to the rat's brain? So I guess a question more about the kind of methodology of the research.
Yes, so we do a lot of research into neuroplasticity, which is how the brain is subject to change due to different stimulus. So my lab, the Naxted Schwint lab, they both trained in a lab called the Trantham Davison lab, which is, I'm not really familiar with all this stuff, but supposedly it's a very famous neuroscience lab from California that does a lot of research in glutamate. So we're finding the neurotransmitter in amino acid glutamate has a lot of implications in neuroplasticity. So our lab does a lot of research, specifically when I've been there, in a protein called metabotropic glutamate receptor 5, as well as 2 and 3, and how changes in those protein expressions actually relate to differences in drug-seeking behavior. So we're actually able to have a rat self-administer drugs completely be symptomatic behaviorally, seems like they're addicted. And then we can make an injection in their brain to change these receptors. And then all of a sudden they stop seeking drugs. So that's really interesting. And really, we're still trying to do that foundational biological work to really find out all these intersections of psychology and biology.
That is fascinating. So Marlena Massey asks, okay, the first question you may have already asked or partially answered. How were the rats exposed to stressors evaluated, assessed after the fact? Okay, this more has to do with the post-traumatic stress research. And also she asks, it's been established that individuals with PTSD are more likely to have OUD. Are you aware of any data that suggests that PTSD in itself is a pain condition and not just an anxiety psychological type of condition?
So I am not well versed in pain research. That said, I did watch a seminar, I think it was 2 months ago, from a College of Medicine professor that was saying basically all pain is psychological, and the more research we do and go into pain, pain is just subjective to the person, and it really depends on how they're doing emotionally or socioeconomically. There's just a lot of factors that go into how you're feeling and then how that expresses itself in your body. So I think she was meaning opioid use disorder, OUD. I think that's the letters that you said.
Right. I think so. I'm not 100% on that.
Okay. So PTSD, people who have PTSD are 5 times more likely to get a substance use disorder. Similarly, if you have a substance use disorder, you're 3 times more prone to get PTSD. So there's really a lot of intersections in how trauma and coping mechanisms relate to substance use disorders and the establishment of addictions. So I personally haven't studied pain that much, but I know there's definitely a lot of work being done in my lab and others and how stress relates to substance use.
Yeah, really interesting. It seems like a lot of people in the class have really connected in various ways with your research topic, getting some more kind of technical and in-depth questions than what people normally ask, which is interesting. It is a very cool topic.
I think Juan might have a question.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Juan, go ahead. Sorry, I was looking at the pre-written questions, not monitoring the chat.
Don't worry, Professor Watson. Harrison, I have a question. Okay, so was that research? Have you ever experienced a type of research that has just made you doubt everything you know? Like, just has made you really emotional?
Most definitely.
Could you elaborate a little bit on what type of or what happened? What went through your mind? Yeah.
So there's a lot of institutional protocols on whenever anyone does research with animals, we have to treat them with the most respect and care that we absolutely can. So I was taking part in a cocaine addiction research protocol in which that it's so self-administration. The way it works is we do a intrajugular catheter. So we do surgery on the rat to put a catheter from its back into its jugular vein. So the protocol allows that rat then to push a lever down in a self-administration box, and then so that rat is able to give itself drug. So the problem with jugular catheters is that because rats are it's not comfortable to have a backpack on that has a catheter into your jugular vein. So rats try to take it off. It's actually kind of cute. They all have like these little backpacks, and then we like plug it into a machine, and then the rats can do whatever they want. But because there's a high risk for catheter failure, just because of blood clots or because of drugs are very viscous, so that increases blood clots as well. Just these are like bodies and physiological responses just don't want catheters in your body. So they have a very high likelihood to fail. So rats, similar to humans, have 2 jugular veins. So if one catheter fails, we can then do a surgery to then use the other jugular vein to then allow the continuation of the research. But if that second one fails, then the rats are uncomfortable, they're in pain, and we can't use them for the research. So there was one occasion in which that I had to put down a rat in which that it had 2 catheter failures. So that was really, really hard for me, in which that I just love animals, one, and having to really just wrestle with that this is the most ethical decision to do. And if we're not doing this, if we can't get data out of this, the most ethical thing to do is to put this animal down. So I had to do that myself. And I cried afterwards, and I really was put off from research for a little bit after that. But at the end of the day, I have to remind myself that preclinical research is not about me. It's really about people down the line that can use this to help with substance use disorders and stress and anxiety research. So I try to just remind myself that even though this is hard for the animal and this is hard for me, that we have so many institutions that have approved this research, say that it's necessary, we've received funding from the federal government, and that we use every pain med that we can, and we do it as sterilely as possible. So it's the most ethical and safe and responsible way to conduct animal research. So that definitely was a struggle that I had. And I think most people that do work with animals at some point have to grapple with that, of which it's just hard to seemingly see an animal in any pain and to know that you are somewhat responsible for that.
I have a question from Gianna Forte about your experience as a UF student. It's very evident that you were very active at UF. How were you able to balance organizations, hobbies, schoolwork, research? What advice do you have for other students who are trying to do a lot of those different things?
I would say that I am one to push my limits and really see the most I can do. I feel like it's a lot of students do. And I failed a lot. I was told that I was doing too much and I had to step down from some of my duties. And that's just the reality of there being 24 hours in the day. And I really had to learn to be okay with that. That said, I also had to make a decision really early in my academic career to drop out of my fraternity. I was in IFC, which is the like Rho on-campus fraternities. And I had to make the decision that even though I loved that and it was a lot of fun, long-term, that wasn't going to give me opportunities that would further my career. And that's ultimately why I'm in college. So really having to prioritize your time and only give institutions the valuable resource, which is your time, that absolutely deserve it.
Fantastic advice. We have a question from Evelyn Oldham about the University Scholars Program. How did you find out about the program? What drew you? Were there other programs you considered applying to? And what advice do you have for people trying to select research programs and figure out what's going to be right for them?
So I chose USP because when I was a freshman, I had an upperclassman research associate that was in the program. I never have gotten paid for any undergrad research I've ever done. And that one program gave me, over the course of a year, a $1,750 stipend. So I was just very excited to have any compensation that I could find. So that's ultimately how I picked the program, because I could get compensated somehow.
So I'm assuming you had already established your faculty mentor at that point, and you'd already. Remind me, did you say you did a research assistantship or a lab position before that?
No, I started my freshman year. I took a bunch of electives that I thought would just be fun and interesting. And then one of my graduate TAs, every single day I went to class, I reminded her that I'm interested in her research and I would be very keen on being interviewed whenever she had a moment. So I was a research assistant in that position, and I have been there since freshman year.
Sorry to make you wait, Caroline. I saw you have a blue hand. Caroline's question next.
Hi.
Hi.
So because UF like doesn't have like a neurology department for undergrads, how did you overcome that to like find like the right like departments to work with like for your research project, since it is like more neuroscience?
hmm So I'm in the Department of Psychology. And I would say that pretty much any kind of research that you want to get into, there is some type of UF department that does that type of research. So for the Department of Psychology, they actually have 5 branches. I'm in the behavioral neuroscience, but they also have counseling, behavior analysis, and 2 more that I can't remember right now. But every single department is like that. So if you are interested in a type of research, you can find faculty that are doing it. As well as, I really would encourage you to reach out to College of Medicine or professors, because they also will take undergrads. They're a little bit, I would say, less responsive than on-campus faculty, just because those types of research is just really, I would say, harder science. It's not as easy to grasp when you don't have a foundation of undergrad and being able to apply that to research and actually understand what's going on. That said, I really have not understood my research until really now, years into it. And I think that as I talk to grad students that are above me, even 5th-year grad students will be like, look, I don't know what I'm doing. I am just trying my best, learning as I can, and trying to develop into a good scientist. And I feel like that's how everyone needs to really remind themselves that we're all here training, we're all trying to understand. So just finding a faculty member that inspires you, and then really that faculty member will carry you for as far as you need.
Awesome advice. I'm going to jump to another question from the list here from Alessio Barca asks about challenges, issues that you ran into during your research and how you were able to overcome them. And did you run into challenges that caused you to take an unexpected route at any point?
The first thing that comes to my mind is I am ending my 3rd year here at UF. I was going to do 4, but I went through a breakup last year, and then I went through this experience in which a lab member of mine informed me that she didn't think I was capable of graduate work, and I didn't. She expressed to me that basically I should just quit. So that experience really was transformative to me, because for the first time, I think, in my academic career, I just responded like, I'm comfortable that you have that opinion, but I am trying my best, and that's all I can do, and I'm gonna keep on working. So I think from that point, I was going just through a lot. I was taking biochemistry, organic chemistry, these really upper level bio classes. Had stuff going on in my personal life, and just this lab member kind of discouraged me from even trying. So then I really just like turned all that frustration into anger and passion to really just work for any opportunity that I could get. So how I got into my lab is I found like $1.5 million in different federal grants that my lab could apply for. And I just showed my PIs and I was like, we don't have money for me to do work, but I want to do work. So if you could apply to some of these grants, I'm interested in working. So really just advocating for yourself and learning to be okay if someone doesn't think that you're good enough, and just being able to have that compassion for yourself to say that, you know, that maybe like whatever their thoughts are, and that's fine, but you have to remember that you are doing your best and really that you are brilliant, and everyone doesn't have to see that.
That is a fantastic answer. Potentially a good, oh, Emily, go ahead.
Hi, sorry. I was just wondering like what advice you'd offer to people new into research when it comes to like social networking, if you have anything that you could offer.
I would say the one thing that has gotten me to the point I am today is that I was very prone to ask, how can I help? What can I do to assist? And really just informing people that are above you that you just want to learn and that you want any opportunity that they can offer, and just accepting whatever it is. I would cut brain slices and stain them and do analysis on a computer. And it was the most boring research I have ever done, but I did that for a full calendar year. And then eventually they let me do more cool stuff. But I would just say really asking for scut and doing that scut well and coming in and trying your best and really making sure that when you give work to someone that is to your best ability, and people will really see that and take care of you down the line, and you really just kind of have to stay faithful.
Does anyone else have a question? I don't see any more blue hands. We are coming up on the 3 o'clock mark. We've got a couple of minutes left, but I was kind of interested, since it's pretty far off for some of the people in this class, but for others not so much. If you could speak anything to the process of applying into a graduate program, and how you feel like your undergraduate research experiences helped you with that. How were you able to curate and talk about those experiences in application materials that you had to produce? I mean, that may be a lot to talk about, but is there any advice you could give along those lines?
I would say really lean into your struggles. Pretty much everyone has something that really pushed them to grow throughout life. I definitely use a lot of my personal experiences into my research. And I think just being very honest with people and saying, you know, like I went through XYZ, and because of that, I am a more resilient, headstrong, determined advocate for myself. And just being able to, anything that maybe you had to overcome, use that as a pivot point to really market yourself, because not everyone is comfortable to do that, and really the people that are people that succeed. I would like to think, at least.
That's so awesome. Thank you again, Harrison, so much for fitting us into your busy day. This is great. I feel we're really fortunate we get to hear from two different people's experiences today. We had another guest at 12:15, and you were able to come in. So thank you so much. It was really nice to meet you. Yeah, I'm sorry I'm blanking for words. It's been a long day, but really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Good luck to everyone applying to research.
Cool. All right, I'm going to end the meeting now.
Okay, have a good day.
You too.